At Grandparents' Day, my daughter-in-law pointed at me in front of my 4-year-old grandson and said, "You're not his real grandmother. Stop pretending you belong here." My stepson, Ryan, whom I had raised since he was 8, stared at the floor. I placed Noah's gift beside him, kissed his hair, and walked out without arguing. 3 days later, the preschool director called. "Mrs. Bennett, where should I send your $2,800 refund?" I froze. I had never withdrawn Noah. Then her voice tightened. Someone requested that we send it to a different account before I could ask whose. She read the name Ryan Bennett, my son. To understand why hearing Ryan's name cut so deeply, you need to know that I never thought of him as my stepson. I was 31 when I married his father, Mark. Ryan was 8, small for his age, and still grieving the mother he had lost 2 years earlier. I never asked him to call me Mom. I simply packed his lunches, sat through rainy soccer games, helped with college applications, and stayed awake when he came home heartbroken at 19. One morning, he called me Mom without noticing. Neither of us corrected it. Mark died 5 years ago. By then, Ryan was 30, married to Madison and expecting their first child. At the funeral, Ryan held my hand and said, "We're still a family." I believed him. At 58, I worked as a payroll supervisor and lived in the Ohio house Mark and I had shared. I was not wealthy, but decades of careful saving meant I could handle an emergency. In my family, that had quietly become my role, the person everyone called after their other plans failed. When Noah was born, I became Grandma Laura. I never competed with Madison's mother, Beth. Noah had room for 2 grandmothers, and I was happy being the one who read dinosaur books, remembered his strawberry allergy, and kept rain boots by my back door. At 4, he didn't understand biology, he understood who showed up. Madison had never been openly warm with me, but she was polite until Ryan's finances fell apart. She cared deeply about appearing independent, especially around Beth. Accepting my help seemed to embarrass her more than needing it. Ryan spent 10 months unemployed before recently finding another operations job. During that stretch, their savings disappeared, credit cards filled up, and Madison began picking up extra office hours. I helped carefully groceries delivered to their house, 1 utility bill paid directly, nothing extravagant. Then Madison came to my kitchen with red-rimmed eyes. Noah's private preschool tuition was due for the next school year. Moving him, she said, would take away the only stable routine he had left. "How much do you need?" I asked. "Whatever you can manage," she whispered. Then she touched my wrist. "Please don't tell Ryan. He's already ashamed. Let him think we handled most of it." That request should have troubled me. Instead, I mistook secrecy for kindness. A week later, I noticed Madison introducing Beth as Noah's real grandma. Whenever someone asked who I was, she called me Ryan's stepmother. I told myself labels didn't matter. Then the preschool invoice arrived, and I made a decision Madison never expected me to make. The invoice was for $1,900 a month, instead of paying 1 installment. I called the school and covered the entire upcoming year, $22,800. The new term would begin in July, and I wanted Noah's place secured before Ryan and Madison faced another emergency, because the payment came from me. The enrollment agreement listed me as the financially responsible payer and refund recipient. Madison watched me sign it in early May, outside the office. She hugged me so tightly I almost dropped my purse. "You just saved us," she whispered. "Then tell Ryan," I said. "He shouldn't think he's carrying this alone." Her arms immediately loosened. "Not yet. Let him settle into his new job first." I agreed, although the secrecy felt heavier now. Ryan later thanked me for helping with the deposit, confirming that Madison had minimized what I had done. I nearly corrected him. Then I remembered her tears at my kitchen table and stayed quiet. After that, Madison's behavior changed. She stopped sending me Noah's preschool pictures. Sunday visits became too hectic, yet whenever she needed an afternoon babysitter, my number remained easy to find. 2 weeks later, Noah mentioned Grandparents' Day while I was buckling him into his car seat. "Grandma Beth is coming," he said. "Are you sitting with me too? I had received no invitation." When I asked Madison, She glanced at her phone and said seating was limited. It's really meant for grandparents. The emphasis was unmistakable. That evening, Noah's teacher emailed me. Noah had told her he wanted both grandmothers there, and she assured me there was room. I accepted for Noah, not to challenge Madison. I spent the next weekend making him a small album. It included photographs of Ryan at Noah's age, Mark holding Ryan's first baseball glove, and an empty page labeled Our Next Adventure. It was not proof that I belonged. It was simply family history I wanted Noah to have. On the morning of the event, I entered the classroom carrying the album in a blue gift bag. Paper flowers covered the walls, and tiny chairs formed a semicircle around the children. Beth was already seated beside Noah. Madison stood behind her, introducing her to another parent as Noah's real grandmother. Ryan saw me and gave an uneasy smile. "I didn't know you were coming." Noah invited me. Before he could answer, Noah spotted me. "Grandma Laura!" He jumped up, dragged an empty chair toward his table, and patted the seat beside him. Madison's face tightened. She stepped between us, placed one hand on the chair, and looked directly at me. What she said next changed the meaning of every favor I had ever done for them. "Beth is his real grandmother," Madison said. "You're not. Stop pretending you belong here." Her voice was controlled, which somehow made it crueler. Noah's hand remained on the little chair he had pulled out for me. He looked from Madison to me, confused. I turned to Ryan. For 27 years, I had been the person he called when he was sick, frightened, broke, or grieving. I waited for him to say one simple word, Mom, instead. He looked toward the other parents and muttered, "Can we not do this here?" He had not defended me. He had only asked me to make his discomfort quieter. Beth's face reddened. She started to speak, but I shook my head. Noah did not deserve to watch 4 adults argue over who was allowed to love him. I set the blue gift bag on his table and kissed the top of his hair. "This is for you, sweetheart. Have a wonderful day." "Are you coming back?" he asked. "Soon," I promised. Then I walked out without arguing. I made it to my car before my hands began shaking. Ryan texted that afternoon. "Sorry things got awkward. Madison is stressed." I read it 3 times. Not sorry for what she said. Not sorry he stayed silent. Just sorry the cruelty had become awkward for him. I did not respond. 3 days later, Denise Parker, the preschool director, called while I was eating lunch at my desk. "Mrs. Bennett, we're ready to process Noah's withdrawal. Where should I send your $22,800 refund?" My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. I never withdrew Noah. There was a pause. Denise explained that Noah's mother had canceled his enrollment before the July term began, making the full payment refundable. Madison had also requested that the money be sent to a different account, claiming I had approved the change. "I approved nothing," I said. "Whose account is it?" Denise hesitated, then read the name attached to the request, Ryan Bennett. I asked her to place a temporary hold on the refund while we verified the instructions. I made clear that I would not interfere with Ryan and Madison's right to choose Noah's school. I was only protecting money that legally belonged to me. That evening, I gathered the payment agreement, the receipt, and Madison's messages asking me to hide the tuition from Ryan. Then I requested a meeting with Denise, Madison, and my son. If Ryan had tried to take my money, he could admit it to my face. If he had not, someone had used his name, and I needed to know why. The 4 of us met in Denise's office the following Monday. Ryan sat beside Madison, but their chairs were angled apart. Madison crossed her arms before I had even taken my seat. "I knew this was about Grandparents' Day," she said. "Laura is angry. So now she's trying to punish Noah by canceling his tuition." "I canceled nothing," I replied. Madison turned to Ryan. "See, this is what she does. She helps, then uses it to control us." Ryan rubbed his forehead. "Mom." "Did you ask for the money back or not?" Before I could answer, Denise opened the payment record on her desk. Noah's withdrawal was submitted by his mother. She said, "Mrs. Bennett did not request it. Since the new term has not begun, the full tuition payment is refundable." Ryan looked confused. "Full payment." Denise glanced at me, and I nodded. $22,800, she said, paid by Laura Bennett in early May. Ryan's face emptied. He turned toward Madison. You told me Mom helped with the deposit. Madison's jaw tightened. You were already humiliated about being unemployed. I was protecting you. By lying to me about $22,000, she asked me to keep it secret, I said quietly. I agreed. That was my mistake. I placed Madison's messages on the desk. Ryan read the lines asking me to let him believe they had covered most of the tuition. His shoulders dropped with each one. Denise continued. After Noah received a place in the free public pre-K program, Madison had withdrawn him from the private school. That decision was hers and Ryan's to make. The problem came afterward. The refund request named a household checking account, Denise explained. Ryan is listed as the primary account holder, but the request itself came from Madison. She stated that Mrs. Bennett had authorized us to redirect the money. Ryan stared at his wife. I didn't know about any refund. It's our joint account, Madison snapped. The money would still be used for our family. It is not your money, Denise said evenly. Our agreement requires the refund to return to the recorded payer unless that payer personally approves another destination. That is why I contacted Mrs. Bennett. For the first time. Madison looked uncertain. I asked the question I had been carrying for days. When did you apply for the public program? Her silence answered first. Before I paid the tuition, it was only a waiting list, she said. We didn't know Noah would get in. But you knew it was possible. You let me pay for an entire year and said nothing. We needed a backup, and once the free option opened, you saw $22,800 that could wipe out your credit cards. Madison's eyes flashed. Those debts paid for groceries and rent while Ryan was out of work. I wasn't buying jewelry. I was keeping Noah's home together. I believed part of that. Desperation explained why the money tempted her. It did not explain why she publicly erased me while privately living on my help. You could have asked, I said. I might have helped you make a plan. Instead, you hid the payment from Ryan, tried to redirect my refund, and told Noah I did not belong in his family. I said you weren't his real grandmother. Ryan flinched. I leaned forward. I raised your husband from the time he was 8. I sat beside him when his mother's absence hurt, and I buried his father with him. You are free to decide what title you use for me. You are not free to take my money while teaching Noah that my love is counterfeit. Madison looked at Ryan as if expecting him to rescue her. This time, he did not look away. Why did you say that in front of Noah? Because she keeps acting like she has equal rights to him. I never claimed parental rights, I said. I showed up when you asked, usually with my checkbook. Then I gave her the answer she had forced me to learn. You can decide I'm not family, but you cannot make that decision while quietly spending my money. No one spoke for several seconds. I turned to Denise. Please return the full refund to the account it came from. Madison sat upright. Laura, wait. We already planned around that money. That plan required my consent. You never had it. What about Noah? Noah has a confirmed place in pre-K. His education is not being disrupted, and I will never use access to him as a condition for financial help. I looked at both of them, but there will be no more secret support if I ever pay a provider again. Both parents will know the amount and the terms. Ryan's voice cracked. Mom, I'm sorry. I met his eyes. For which part? He swallowed. For letting her say it, for not asking questions, for making you easier to disappoint than my wife. It was the first honest thing he had said, but honesty did not repair trust in one afternoon. I hear you, I said. What happens next will depend on what you do after today. Denise confirmed the refund would be processed only to me. Madison stared at the unsigned authorization line, finally understanding that the money she had already spent in her imagination was never hers to claim. The refund reached my account 6 business days later. I left it untouched until I had spoken with a financial advisor, then placed the entire $22,800 into an education account for Noah's future. I remained the account owner, but I made myself one promise: the money would never be used to purchase visits, apologies, or loyalty. Noah started public pre-K in July. He liked his teacher, made a friend named Caleb, and proudly showed me the paper sun he had cut out on his first day. Whatever conflict existed among the adults, his world remained stable. That mattered more to me than winning. Ryan and Madison's world became less comfortable. Without the refund, they had to confront the debt Madison had hoped to erase. Ryan took over their household budget, canceled expenses they could not afford, and arranged manageable payment plans for the first time since losing his job. He stopped allowing shame to make financial decisions for him. He also stopped sending vague apologies. Every Sunday for a month, Ryan called me. He never asked for money. He told me what he was doing differently and listened when I explained why his silence at the school had hurt more than Madison's words. "I treated you like the safest person to disappoint," he admitted, "because I thought you'd always forgive me." "I probably will forgive you," I said. "That doesn't mean I'll return to the way things were." Madison took longer. 3 weeks after the meeting, she sent a written apology. She admitted that calling Beth the real grandmother had been deliberate. She had wanted Beth to believe she was managing her family without my help, and she had resented that Noah's affection for me exposed the truth. She also admitted that redirecting the refund had been an attempt to solve their debt without asking my permission. I appreciated the honesty, but I did not pretend one letter restored trust. I replied that I was willing to be civil and rebuild slowly, provided Noah was never again placed inside an adult struggle over money or titles. Beth called me separately. Madison had told her I preferred to stay uninvolved. Beth apologized for believing it and said, "Noah doesn't need us competing. He needs us both behaving like grandmothers." That was the first apology I accepted without hesitation. Visits with Noah resumed gradually, at Ryan's invitation and without financial conditions. The first Saturday he returned to my house, he found the rain boots by the door and asked if we could look for worms after the storm. To him, nothing essential had changed. But I had changed. I would still be generous, just never secretly. Any future help would go directly to the school, doctor, or provider. With both parents informed, love had made me useful to my family. Boundaries finally taught them that usefulness was not permission. Madison was right. I was not Noah's biological grandmother, but biology had never packed Ryan's lunches, held him through grief, or placed rain boots by the door for his son. Family is not a title someone can grant when they need your money and revoke when your presence becomes inconvenient. I did not punish Noah. And I did not destroy his parents. I simply stopped financing my own exclusion. Would you have taken back the $22,800 or given Madison another chance? Tell me below. And subscribe for more stories about betrayal, boundaries, and hard-earned justice.